Hey everybody, it's Leslie Rusty coming back to you this week with yet another one of our educational series. Today I have with me Kirigo, who is a natural hairstylist out of the Maryland, out of the beautiful state of Maryland. And I'm super excited to have her because it is a discipline in the professional beauty industry that I don't honestly know much about. So I'm excited to ask her a few questions. This time we'll be doing it a little bit backwards from the way we did it before. We're going to post this interview up first. You can add all of your questions into our social media, our Facebook page, our Instagram page, where this video is housed. And then she's going to create a video and try to answer as many of your questions as possible when she does the video. It doesn't mean we won't have you back a couple weeks from now, a couple months from now, if there's a lot of questions. But today I just want to get to know you and welcome to our little classroom here.
Oh, thank you so much, Leslie. I'm going to say it's such a pleasure. I admire your work. And so this is like a dream to be able to even have this interview with you. So thank you.
Good. I love interviewing people. We're usually on the other side, so this is really fun for me. So before we get started, I just want to ask you a little bit about, tell me about what your day looks like, what you do, and how you ended up doing natural hair. How did you pick that as a discipline? And what is a normal day like for you?
Okay. Where did I pick up this discipline? Honestly, for me, the natural hair thing is a cultural thing. I'm a native of Kenya, East Africa, where women we wore braids. We had to groom our hair a certain way and wear a certain way or style of the way you wear your hair or groom it sort of even reflected your age, whether you're a student or a woman who's going through her rites of passage, who was ready for marriage. So there were certain styles, or a woman who had already had children and was past her menopausal year, into those years. So we had, culturally, there were styles that were worn by a certain age group, and that's how we were identified. So I've been, this has been since since the earliest that I can remember, and what hair represented.
I think that is so fascinating. So I did not know that your hair could sort of demonstrate where where you were in terms of the stage of your life. And I think that's a really interesting thing I've never actually thought about. So did you learn it like from your aunts, your mother, your sisters? It was like a handed down thing?
Yes, I learned it from, seeing it from my grandmother, my mom. We sat in the thighs of our parents or our elders, and stories were passed on. I think that traditionally that's how our history and stories of our ancestors were passed on to the next generation, through the grooming. It really was not just the grooming of hair, but like an identification for you to be, to learn more about the culture, and what your walk is at a certain age. There's a certain protocol and expectation of what you should be doing by the community and the society. So these are the ways our education, we depict like mothers were the first teachers, and that's pretty much how that was done, through like grooming practices. Mm-hmm.
So in the United States, how is that different? Like when somebody comes to you that was raised here, what are they asking for? How does that fit with what you were taught?
Okay, so I think that is so awesome. I think because one of the things I feel, or that we've done, because of, I don't know whether it was colonialism, slavery, or whatever, it affected how women of color felt about their hair. And then there was, during that era, there was I think degradation, like everybody's was lowered, like what they thought was, or the customs that they had used to practice were eliminated, and now so people were lost, and some of the things that they began to feel was ashamed of how they looked, their image, their hair, and how the hair grew naturally out of their head, So so I think when African American women come to me, and it's across the diaspora, there is this whole thing of, one thing that we all experience is this whole thing of learning to embrace yourself as naturally,
Right.
without the shame, without the stories, without, those things. So that's common across the globe, and finding pride and learning about our hair, because only recently, even in the cosmetology world, we it begins with straightening hair, and that's what we learn. But prior to that, like, what if we didn't want to straighten our hair? Then what could we do? That information was not explored until now, when we see the natural hair movement.
Right.
um, yeah, so
What
that.
are some of the common things? Is like braiding, or what are common things in natural hair? When you say natural hair, what are the most common things you're referencing?
Okay, so me particularly, I'm a Sisterlocks brand ambassador, and my hair right now, this is what Sisterlocks are, and they're like really tiny framework. This is all my hair, no additions, but
Oh,
they,
it's so healthy.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It is no additions. Just we use a tool to create these small frameworks, and then it allows me to manage my hair free of the comb that causes a lot of stress in my hair. So we find that some of those tools were not the best. Like, maybe using our fingers is better with shampoos. Definitely brushes, but finding the right type of tools, like wide tooth combs, and we find that, let's say in the last decade, we are finding things like that in the market, because obviously the demand is high for,
Right.
for these things. Whereas before, if we look back maybe 15, 20 years ago, that was very difficult to find, even, products that were nourishing to our hair.
Right.
It has
Okay, so this may be a really dumb question, but I'm going to ask it because I'm just dying to ask the question.
Please, please.
Is when you say natural hair, is that exclusive to African American hair? Pretty much.
Natural hair means that is chemical free, that is, and when we say chemical free, that we don't alter the natural curl pattern, like what naturally grows out of our hair.
Okay.
And because our hair naturally grows upwards, like if we didn't comb it, or if I didn't wear it like this, my hair would naturally grow up, like what
Okay.
we call vegetation,
Yeah.
plants, like that. And the purpose of hair, it's like to be protected from the sun, and all of these things that human beings, when we think about what's the purpose of hair, what role does it play in our life? It's protection in all the areas that we find hair. It's to protect us, including from the sun.
That's so great because as a nurse, I'm constantly trying to tell people not to wax their nose hair because it is protective. There is a reason you have hair. So for you to reinforce that there is a reason of all of our hair helps me reinforce not to wax your nasal hair. So I'm glad you said that. So, okay. So on a typical day, how many clients, like if you were to have a full day, how many clients might you see in a day?
Okay, if I was to have,
Before COVID,
yes,
pre-COVID.
okay. Now, it depends on the service that I'm rendering, right, in the natural hair industry. So, because some things are, you'll find that our grooming periods of time, or the time you come in, it could go anywhere 3 to 4 hours per client. Okay.
Wow.
Yes, yes, yes. So it depends on what it is that you're doing. There are some things that do that an hour, too. But you're going to find that in the natural hair industry, unless someone is coming in just for wash and go and a cut, most of our styles are minimum 45 minutes, and that's a short style into 4 or 5 hours.
And is it men and women?
Yes.
Okay, that's
Yes.
cool. 'Cause
Yeah.
yeah.
Unless they're getting a haircut and keeping it just simple, that's one thing. But even that may take up to an hour. But in general, our grooming services, the duration of time is at least 60 minutes and above.
Okay, so I see from your background, it appears that you're in a salon type of environment.
Yes.
Okay, do a lot of people do this out of their homes?
Yes, the natural hair industry has allowed us to have, and depending on the state that you live in,
Right.
right? So we can have industries where we are at home. I think, when I think about that, um, w- one of the reasons why I think cosmetology plays a role is because they really highlight how you should keep the environment safe.
Exactly.
So, the combs that you use, the ringworms that you could pass on to somebody else without, if you don't disinfect them and sanitize them well. And so that could be lost in translation if
Mhm.
the individual may not want to, may not see the necessity to hold the standards high in terms of sanitization, you know?
So tell me a little bit how you do that. So what's your, how, you know, because this isn't regulated in most states, and I'm going to ask you about that in a minute, but because this is not regulated in most states or quite a few states, you're having to just decide on your own what you're going to do to prevent infection from being spread. And now we have COVID-19. So what is your routine that you do to make your services safer?
Okay, so first of all, when you come into the building, because these are like shared suites, we take a lot of pride in ourselves. As we're in Salantra Select Suites in Owings Mills, Maryland. We hold high standards. So as soon as you come in right now, you've got to go through a screening. We take the temperature before you come in. And, you know, we had thought about that as stylists. How do we do that to our clients? There's a lot of resistance, especially in our community. They'll take it personal. It's like, you know, girl, I know you. We're like family, you know, and people don't understand because you're just putting healthy boundaries. And if you're running a business, you've got to be about the business, you know, and take the responsibility, because like a salon owner's number one priority is the protection and safety of your clients before the service, you know. So I take what I do very seriously, and I know now we have a waiting list.
Wow.
Because people have been seeing what we're doing, you know. We initially there was a lot of resistance. How dare you think that you're going to do that to me? And it's like, I'm not doing anything. These are just the standards. We've taken, you know, the COVID-19 certifications, and these are some of the things that, you know, we need to do. I'm a germaphobe by nature. You know, I really am. And my children have like woken me up to reality. You know, they've really been my reality check, like raising them and throwing food on the floor and they want to eat it, you know, that I would just freak out and panic over things like that. But I see that has come, you know, my siblings may not have thought it was good to grow up with me like that, but I see how it comes now to really allow me to keep a safe environment. So when I walk in, the first thing that I do, even though we knew that we cleaned the night before we left, I start off just assuming, you know, that I still need to do something else. I'll probably just take wipes and go over to sanitized Clorox wipes or whatever, and go over the furniture everywhere from the doorknobs, you know. But the night before, we sanitize and disinfect, and then we come and just do it over before we get started. Then we drape ourselves in our aprons. Of course, the minute we come in, wash our hands, okay, and then we start the whole routine of cleaning. Then drape ourselves, make sure by the time the client goes through security, we ask them to wash their hands as well, you know, after they get their temperature taken and everything is good. Then and you know, and I know now it's summer, people had questions like, what if I come in and I've been waiting outside and I was hot, you know, what does that mean? So we're going to allow you to, you know, give you some time to relax, and then they're going to take it again, give it about 5 to 10 minutes, and then take it again, because of course the building has got air conditioning right now. Right. And then you go through the process, you know. So there was a bit of resistance from some people, but most of our clients have been really happy, and because we kept in touch with them over Zoom and having sessions like that with them.
Yep.
So and
you know, you kept in touch, having Zoom calls, like telling them what you're doing and what expectations they can have of you and what you have of them.
Absolutely.
Great idea.
Yeah, so we can mentally prepare them, because this was totally different. You have to come in here because it's a sisterhood in here. We laugh, we have such good time. You know, it's more like people come here and feel rejuvenated, inspired. We really are concerned about women's health and mental health. So we have like daily devotions. Right now we're currently doing, I've got a 40-day challenge of writing love letters to yourself, you know.
Oh, wow, that's so great.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, are there an age group of women that you see more frequently, or is it all across the board?
Well, because I do service, my main service right now, I went from doing many things, and then I narrowed down and specializing. So I'm a Sisterlox brand ambassador and a master stylist. So this is what I focus on. It's a lucrative style, I would like to say it is, you know, it costs over $1,000 to get this done. So the type of clientele you're getting a specific woman who's very independent, you know, financially stable, is looking to have no hair worries and just focus on her career or her family, or, you know,
Right.
whatever.
So that leads me to a great question then.
Yes.
That woman, I'm guessing, probably spends a significant amount of time maybe watching the news or looking at the news on her phone when she's, you know, waiting to come in to see you, for example. Have they come in with specific desires in terms of what you're doing to make their visit safer? Like, they're coming in more educated. They know what disinfect means now. They know that you standing right here might not feel very safe. So have there been a lot of concerns that they've expressed to you?
I
Do they
think
just feel safe by what you've told them?
because we had those, we gradually, you know, on our last Zoom meeting, we did the first day when we came back and videotaped it. And then we had a Zoom meeting for our clients. Just, we called it a soft opening, you
Right.
know, and then we said, this is what it's going to look like. This is how everybody's going to be dressed. This is how you have to place your mask, you know,
Right.
just that whole gamut. And everyone was like, thank you so much for that. And I feel safe. And we asked them, how does it feel? One of the ladies said to us, and we thought this was priceless. She said, you've walked us through everything that you're doing. And this is just confirmation of why you closed, that you were actually doing this. So what you've been telling us, this is proof that you've actually been doing what you've been telling us. And we were like, wow. You
In
know,
all of the presentations I've been doing, I end it with setting expectations for your customer, like
absolutely.
telling them what you've done while they're gone and what you've done to prepare, but also telling them what you expect from them. I
Yeah,
expect to get your temperature taken. I expect you to wear a mask. Do you require them to wear a mask?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we provide them as well, you know. So we've even put on our waiver that if you come in and we feel like we need you to put ours over, then that's what we're going to ask you to do. So everybody knows this before they come, you know.
Well, yeah, because one of the things that we do know puts people at higher risk is being the duration of time you're with somebody, you know, and arguably the person that most at risk is you, because
Yes.
you've got a bunch of people coming in all day long
Exactly.
and they're only coming for a few hours. So it seems respectful for them to wear a mask so they don't get you. You've been out of work for 2 months. You can't afford to have another week or two off sick. So that is a significant thing. So,
Yes.
so we talked a little bit before we actually got started about deregulation and about regulation of this. And about a third of the states have deregulated completely anything with natural hair. And the remainder of the states, a lot of them just don't even comment on it at all. So they don't even reference it, which I always find kind of disheartening when I talk to people about different disciplines all across the board. I mean, there's all kinds of disciplines where people are doing a professional thing. And like, for you to go back to work, we should have done you 3 weeks ago, because for you to go back to work is harder than somebody who is arguably underneath the Board of Cosmetology, because the Board of Cosmetology is going to tell them, here's the guidelines. You kind of had to make your own up.
Yes.
But if you had an option to be required to have a license and be under the Board of Cosmetology versus doing it without licensure requirements, what would be your preference and why?
Just so that I make sure that I understand what
Yep.
your question. You're asking me, like, pretty much what would I prefer?
Would you prefer to be regulated by the Board of Cosmetology, or do you prefer that you're not?
I think I prefer to be regulated in a community that understands how we need to be regulated. You know?
Okay.
So that's I think is very important, because the approach would need to be slightly different. It needs to also be very inclusive, you know. And I think that's pretty much where the gap is, you know. And to be honest with you, I've been really trying to think what does that need to look like?
Yeah, that was my next question, but maybe you're still thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still thinking about that. So what does that need to look like? And for me, I have an idea of what I would like that to look like, you know.
Yeah.
For me, it would really, honestly, I even thought I would propose like, hey, Barbicide, why don't we team up and, you know, find some sponsorship where we can go to, you know, to these communities or do a Zoom or, you know, just find a way to reach them and educate them, you know.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of trying to reach out to communities, particularly communities that are not regulated right now, because I feel like they're really hungry for information. Like,
They
how
are.
do I get started? How do I go back safely? When do I go back? Right? Because you don't
Yeah,
fit into, you're not a restaurant, you're not a store, but you're technically not a barbershop or a salon. You know, arguably that's when you would just go back to work,
right.
because you're not regulated under the board. And that's a lot of other people. Next week I'm interviewing someone, she does weaves, and she's also not regulated. And, you know, getting the information, sometimes that is sometimes the benefit of being under the board, because they provide a framework that all of your consumers can say, okay, this is what I expect because that's what the board said.
Right.
And probably some people who come to get a service in an area that's not regulated. Eyelash extensions aren't regulated in most states. Waxing services aren't regulated in some states. And there's a whole gamut of things that fall under professional beauty that just
Yeah.
aren't regulated. So it does leave you trying to figure it all out for yourself, which you've done a great job at. But I'm guessing other people are, you know, really could use the information. So we're teaming up with all kinds of people. You never know what could happen. It could be.
Yay. Yay.
So I want to ask you one more question, then I'm going to give you a few minutes if there's anything else you want to say.
Yes.
You clearly have had your career take off. You've taken it seriously. You are doing a really high-end service.
Yes.
If you were a young girl starting today doing natural hair, what's the advice you would give a young girl that wants to do this for her career? Where does she start? What does she do? What are the things she should be looking to do and the things she should be avoiding?
Nice question. Yes. Okay. Because I am opening myself up to a mentorship program in this field. I really feel that a young woman finding a mentor is one, you know, in that area, someone who's already in the field, even if it's just to spend a couple of hours to go see how it is to tap into the reality of it, because sometimes it's a fantasy and then the reality, like my daughter is like, oh, no way, you know.
Well,
She
when you said 3 hours, I'm like, okay, no way. I was done at 3 hours. I don't want to be sitting there for 3 hours or doing it for 3 hours. So
Exactly. And if, you know, and for that long, you can get like maybe 2 or 3 clients in a day. And if you want to stay healthy, it's better to minimize, to keep it at 2 and keep the business flow, you know, with the flow. And then specialize and bring value, you know what I mean? So you maximize on that time as much as possible so that it, you know, it can wear on the body, you know, so that's one thing. So I think for the young lady, I would advise her to find a mentor, which is key. Secondly, to also add a practice of self value, you know, knowing her worth, because in this industry, we, you know, depending on who you're working under, you know, you might be treated well, you might not be treated well, you know, but when you know your value, you're able to put healthy boundaries in place. I also truly believe in order for us in the natural hair industry, we need, you know, knowing our value and our worth. You know, I've had young girls come and ask me, oh my gosh, how could you charge that, you know, and you know, in their mind. However, I know my value because I've taken my time to study my customer, and I know what type of woman she is, you know. And when she comes, things like having access to Wi-Fi so she can work and get her things done during that time, you
yeah.
know, because she's running her business most of the time.
I think that's also a great thing to share in a mentorship program, because one of
Yeah.
the things I think is common,
Mhm.
regardless what culture you're in,
Yeah.
is that when you're 20 years old, $1,000 might as well be $1,000,000, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're like, how can someone pay $1,000 to get their hair done? But what you get to share with someone is, look, there's plenty of other women. I am full with
Yeah.
women who look like you,
Yes.
can afford $1,000 to
Right.
get their hair done. And to me, that's what mentorship is about, is, you know, making somebody see that what their future can be like. I have 3 adult children, and we laugh now about, I told a story recently this weekend, how when my youngest was my oldest was a baby, I started crying one day, and my husband said, what are you crying about? And I said, well, when I was a teenager and I wanted to go out, my parents would just give me $20 and we'll never be able to give him $20. I mean, he was still in like a car seat, right? He was an infant. But it's that whole idea. That's what mentorship is about. That's when your parents say to you, it will work out. Work hard, have a good work ethic, and it will work out. And I think that mentorship is really fabulous in lieu of the fact that, most of these young girls, even if they went to cosmetology school, your programs would not be addressed. It's one of my frustrations in states that require licensure for braiding or natural hair. I'm like, yeah, but they don't even cover it in the curriculum. So why would you make them go to school for something that's not even in their curriculum? So I think that's a great idea. So I'm going to give you the floor if you have anything else you want to say. We try to keep these short and sweet so people can listen to them. For all of you out there, Kirigo is going to be doing a video for us on how she cleans and disinfects her place of business prior to opening every day, or maybe between clients, whatever it is she wants to show us how she does it. She's gonna demonstrate some fine Barbicide products at work, and that will be up probably within the next 2 weeks. We'll see that up on our website. But anything else you want to share with everybody who's listening?
I want to just let everyone know how important it is. I mean, I really want to say, love what you're doing. Love, really, and indulge in what you're doing, and bring the best, bring value, bring integrity, bring everything, bring safety, bring best practices, anything that you can elevate yourself and elevate your industry. For us right now, we're opened up, but we're booked. We're booked. We have a waiting list. We have people who we are calling, like if someone cancels last minute, which we're saying even canceling, the way we're doing business is totally different than we used to. It's almost like people are buying a spot because that's how booked we are. We can now make, those kind of, we can now set it up in that way so that our time is really valuable to sort of get our clients in, and we have new people that have been seeing us or hearing from other people like, oh, they kept in touch with you that whole time. Yes, so love what you do, bring your best, take care of yourself first, because if you don't take care of yourself, then you can't take care of anybody else,
Great message.
Yeah.
Message. And you know what? One thing I love is you just feel like such an empowering person. Everything from just the way that you talk, but just your demeanor is so like calm, and like I can see why someone wants to come and sit with you for 3 hours. So it was a stressful day. So if I'm ever in Maryland, doubt you can do much with my very fine straight hair, but I'll come visit you anyway. Maybe we can go out for coffee. So
I would love that. I would love to meet you in person, but I just really want to say, Leslie, thank you for your work. I've learned a lot, even watching your videos. It's taught me to add that education, even to my clients. Even, I did a video and think, hey, this is what you guys need to think about on my Instagram. By the way, follow me at Kirigo_1, and that's KIRIGO _1,
I was just going to say, spell that out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I did a video and people were like, wow, thanks. I could use that at in my cake kitchen, or I can use that in, or I can use that in my business, especially that thing about the doors, how you handle the doors and wiping the doors, or leave them open so not so many people are touching the doors, little tips that I've collected along the way, just really following you guys and all your interviews and your information and researching on my own.
Kind of funny, or I don't know if it's funny, but ironic how something as devastating as COVID-19 has really pulled people together to working together, to having good ideas to share, that the idea that works in your salon might also work in someone's cake shop, right? I mean, and, I was so busy on the road, going and doing things all the time that I wasn't really thinking about, how can we get this message out to all these different disciplines? And this idea came up because of COVID-19. So I love that we're all starting to, it feels like we're working together more than, than I ever feel like I've been, with other disciplines. So I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
We look forward to working with you on your video, and I may be calling you back.
Yes, please do. I look
Thank
forward
you so
to
much.
hearing from you. And thank you so much to everybody.
Really appreciate it.
All right, then. I'll follow up.
Bye-bye.